call this meeting to order.
No, I didn't say anything to you.
Okay, Kathy always talks to me under her breath, so, in a good way. I would like to ask us to please stand and let Ms. Jorgensen lead us in the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could, Pastor Hannah, would you please come up? We thank you for coming and sharing with us today.
I invite you to bow with me in prayer. Lord, I thank you for our children, the children in our community, especially this day, those served by our schools. Lord, continue to be with the teachers, administrators, all the workers that help them to learn and to grow. Be with the school board this day. I pray that you would give them wisdom in their deliberations. And I give you thanks for this community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. You may be seated. Please make sure all cell phones are turned off. If you desire to speak, please see Sharon or Pam about the card if you want to address the board on any item. So we welcome that. We have a public hearing on an amendment to policy. And I have to pull it.
Here you go.
Let me look at what you got there. Policy number 5517.01 as presented in Neola 17-1, early release updates. Any questions from the board?
I make a motion that we approve the policy.
Have a motion to
I
approve?
second that.
Have a second from Ms. Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, moving along to public comment. I have a card here, hold on. Campbell Building Uses, June Thompson, 617 Emmett Street. Would you please come up, June? Well, I haven't seen June in quite a while. You'll need to come over here, June, and stand up.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
My name is June Thompson. I live at 617 Emmett Street, which is the South Side Historic District over here.
Speak into the microphone a little closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I'm June Thompson, and I live at 617 Emmett Street, Palatka, over in the South Side Historic District. So it's close by. What I wanted to talk about was the Campbell Building, which is a building I've always enjoyed looking at that because it meant so much to me. I had so many roots there. One of them is that I went to school there from the 1st to the 5th grade and have so many really neat memories from back then. And of course, I would like to see that open to something that we could all enjoy. One of the schools that we had that was also a very significant school was torn down. The Mellon High School, I don't know how many of y'all remember that, but it was a wonderful building. It had a great big auditorium in it and several stories to it, and it was torn down, and I think it's a parking lot now over by the courthouse.
That's correct.
Part of a parking lot. So we lost that school. So the only building we have that's one of the schools, one of the old schools, is the Campbell Building. And I would like to see us save that one and make something that we all could enjoy from that. That school is big enough, sturdy enough, and has enough history to be a beacon to Palatka, which we need some of those things. We need them desperately here to kind of anchor our town. We're floundering in so many ways. Things like this can be that for us. We have such a a rich history here, and I don't know if y'all are all, how much you're aware of it, but like Florida has been under the ocean 7 times. It's been covered by water. And one time it was even a desert. We still have some of the cactuses that are growing that kind of are from that period. But there are so many things that we could make into a museum, you know, starting from back then, working all the way up to some of the animals that lived here. We've got bones that have been taken up from the St. Johns River and from Rice Creek, and work on up through the different periods of whenever this was an Indian town, whenever it was Fort Shannon, whenever Palatka first came here, Bartram came here, and the Civil War. We have several houses that are significant. Palatka was significant in that. Excuse me, I'm getting a bug. Anyway, and then we had the paddle wheelboat era, which was like, this was, Palatka was a tourist destination, and we had people coming from different parts of the United States. We had people, a regular cruise line coming down from New York City to here, and we had presidents come here to spend the night. We had hotels. I think there were probably, 6 or more that one of them at least had 600 rooms in it. This was a big deal. This was a tourist destination. Anyway, some of these buildings are significant, and we feel like all that history could be put in like stages around the different rooms of that school. I mean, it's just ideal for walking around and going from room to room. Let's see. Anyway, how much time do I have? Am I up?
It's about time. I think
Okay.
you're supposed to have 3 to 5 minutes, 3 minutes, but
Okay.
we'll go ahead and let you wrap it up.
Okay, well, I just, there's so many things that could benefit from that. We're having the Bartram Trail. This is a center. He came to explore our county. This is where he stayed the most. This is very significant for the rest of the United States and also for Europe. I mean, that was a big deal. They're the ones who sent Bartram over here to catalog the different things and tell the people back home what this looked like over here, to catalog all the animals and plants. And anyway, let's see, I'm kind of getting boggled. But we could finance, we're trying to find, I'm trying to think of different ways we could finance it, and I've come up with several good ones. But some of the things that actually could be in the building would be like, for sale, would be like library books or books that pertain to our area. Local authors could sell books in there about the area. We could have local artists selling works in there, and also maybe Bartram's drawings. That's a way we would like to connect. And also, let's see, what else do I have in here? Anyway, sell plants, native plants out in the maybe in the middle courtyard. Yeah, I have it all planted with native plants. I mean, it could be such a draw. And I'd like y'all to kind of picture it that way. Something that would draw families here. Something the schools could take their children to. I mean, it'd be such an education, such an education. So many people don't know what we have here in this county. And we are, I think we were, maybe the second or third city, David, maybe you can help me with this, after St. Augustine.
We were in the top.
We are so old. I mean, we have so much history. Oh, and also the Indian mounds. Well, I'm old too. I'm older than you. But some of the people who came early to explore the county took a lot of the artifacts out of Mount Royal and some other Indian mounds that we had around here, of which there may be one at the Ravine Gardens. That may be one. They looked, but anyway, they took the artifacts that they found, and a lot of them are up in Pennsylvania, and some of the warehouses up there, they have saved them.
Philadelphia and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and they can get those back. We just need a place to put them. And the University of Florida also did a lot of excavating and found a lot of things. And they have told Ken Mahaffey, I think it was, that if we have a place to put those things, they will give them back to us. They're just waiting for us to get a place and ask for them. So
Jane, I mean, obviously your time's up, and
yeah.
our hearts are very empathetic. I think Jane attended Campbell School, and maybe Phyllis did. And, you know, I grew up in the neighborhood, and I know the history as well. And I think Mr. Douglas is going to look at giving us a report on what we're going to be looking at. It hasn't sold yet. It would be nice if it could be something like that, because I remember the town of Interlochen getting an appropriation to make a museum. However, I think we got an appropriation about the same time to do the old waterworks into a similar situation. And now we've got the position over here, and I don't know that the artifacts from Mount Royal or the state would come back if they didn't have a proper fire-controlled structure. That is a frame building, but it is something that I think the board will welcome entertaining a thought of, because we have donated properties in past years, but I don't know that this is something we will be able to do, but we're going to look at every option that's out there.
That would be so much appreciated. I mean, it would be so much appreciated by so many
Problem,
people.
even if you gave, if you could give, and you might, gave it to the city or the county, I don't know that they could have the money to staff it.
Well, I think, David, that, you know, we have to start somewhere. And I think that, you know, if we have the building, or if the city has the building, then we can start getting grants for it and working towards that. And one other thing I was thinking, all the students who had gone to that school, we have the list of the people who went to that school, that graduated from the senior high, anyway, with the reunions, the students that still come back here. We have those lists of people, and we can maybe get donations from them. They're vested in that building also.
Well, I think that the board would welcome the community to come up with any options that are out there, and try to put together organizations that have ideas along with city and county officials. I don't think we can do that on our own, but until we find out otherwise, I think we are under a pressure to get rid of ancillary properties. Now, I have seen us in past years, I have seen me do it, and I've seen others do it as well, give old school sites to the county, like the Johnson School and different situations, the Willaca Town Hall and you know, the Redlands Christian Migrant. But I think a lot of this will be decided on what kind of investment may come before us and where our financial situation is right now. So be that as it may, you stay involved and stay in touch with us. Give us updates.
Okay, I would like that. And there may
Okay.
be some ways that y'all can think of too, that some money could be, you know, educational money that might be able to go towards something like that.
Well, I know years ago when Joe Pickens
Oh,
was
okay.
when Joe Pickens was the state representative, he got or had appropriated a $250,000, I believe, to the old Central High School because it was a historic school. Well, that has just rotted down to nothing.
I know.
And it's, you know, I don't know where that money is, if it's still in an account somewhere, but I mean, I don't think they've done anything, and we've vacated it, but, you know, the state can come up with things like that. So maybe if we see who our next representative is, we may have some way of finding someone that could do something, certainly with that. And it would be a great place to have kids come from all over rural Florida and North Florida to look at, like they used to do the fish hatchery in Willaca, different things, and the old fort in St. Augustine, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when the time comes. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you so much,
Yes,
David.
ma'am.
And thanks all of y'all.
Okay. Any more public comments? All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Board members, do you have any items that you would like to pull? And Kathy, Did I give you back your, yeah, I did, okay.
Who you
starting with? Any items you'd like to pull from the consent agenda? I'll start with Ms. Jorgensen.
F2, I5,
F2, I5,
and O1.
O1. And Ms. Crawford?
Okay, let's see, E3 and F1.
And F1. Ms. Cummings?
I am good. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve approve the consent agenda minus E3, F1, F2,
I5,
I5, and
01.
O1.
Okay.
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Jorgensen to, what'd you call it? Approve?
Approve the consent.
Approves, I'm just laughing. I love the way she said it. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right, let's go to Ms. Jorgensen's first. We'll go to J, F2. J would stand for Jorgensen, so go ahead.
You know how you hear that the federal government spends $1 million on toilets or whatever, that kind of thing, and we're moving a washer and dryer and it's costing us $13,000.
Yeah, it's way more extensive than that. You know, there was a custodial closet. It's a little bigger than that. It was David's custodial storeroom. There was a mop sink in there. We didn't have any utilities really for a washer dryer. We're busting out the whole floor. We're bringing a sanitary line in there that'll take the you know, the washing machine, and then we'll bring the electrical service in there. So while I agree and appreciate what you're saying, there's a lot more to it than a washer and dryer hookup.
Okay.
And then along with that, there was some other things in that change order also.
Yeah, but it was 13 just for that. Let me ask anybody who knows. Okay. The money that we got, we didn't get. First Coast Technical
Correct.
College got it. So
No,
Came here for them.
Rhonda is the only one that can pull that money down. We don't have it physically in Putnam County. They have it in an account. And as we do the renovations that they approve, that's what the money was for the renovations. The,
First Coast
the,
Technical.
the contracts
No.
that were already lit.
when the governor agreed to give us that money,
Right.
it was totally for renovation of that building to get it ready to add courses to. And the only one that can pull that money down is Ms. Odom. And she pulls it down as she works with
Right.
Mr. Getchell to make sure we're doing the repairs that the state expected us to do.
Okay, but there's no question that this is our building and all this
No,
money.
it's our building,
It's our
and the
building,
renovations
but all
are
the
ours.
renovations are ours.
They agreed to do it. The lobbyists that we used got the House and the Senate members to agree it was a worthy project. It went to the governor's list. He did not veto it. Therefore, we got the money to make the renovations. And the governor talked with our lobbyist recently, and he called me to make sure that we are moving forward with those renovations. They wanted to be sure that that's what we're doing, and it is.
So regardless of whatever happens with us in First Coast, that's still our
Right.
building.
Oh, yeah.
Those
We only
improvements to our
agreed to
facility, yes,
lease
ma'am.
it to First
it for
Coast. We
20
leased it
years.
for $1 a year. But they are defunct, so to speak, and because they were a charter school for St. Johns County. Now they belong to St. Johns County. St. Johns County at this moment is working with us and is very happy with the renovations and that it's moving forward. And St. Johns County has sent an administrator that belongs to them to work from the office in that school and to work with Mr. Gatchell to make sure that we continue to move forward. They are interested in seeing us have what we want for our students in Putnam County, and they realize the value of this program to us. So until such time as the St. Johns County Board and this board and Clay County's board and the state decide that it's going to be done in a different manner, we will move forward. But our purpose for that building, which is our building and will remain our building always and forever, is to have additional classes, vocational, is what they used to be called. Career technical is what the state calls them now. But that's what we're doing there, is finding a way to provide more for our high school students.
Since I'm limited into what I can discuss with board members unless we're in a public meeting, I will let you know that a meeting or two ago, we voted here to enter into a one-year agreement with the St. Johns County School District, who, when the charter, and Mr. Douglas, you can help me if I'm wrong, when the charter was surrendered, it would have to be, we would have to enter into a separate, another new agreement for a long period of time to be bound in perpetuity or for an extended period of time. We do have other options. There would be options of us to perhaps look at doing it ourselves. We had it calculated, I think it was around $4,500 a student, but it may not be the best route for us to go in that we did have Melissa Miller here from St. Johns River State College, who is very active in pursuing the Clay County portion of this. And certainly, we're going to look at all options over this period of time and do what is best for us financially and for the students that we serve. So you're in a one-year agreement to work with, or we're in a one-year agreement to work with First Coast Tech or whatever St. John's District School Board calls it, and then we will fish or cut bait, for as a manner of speaking, when we get down to the next go-round.
Well, what you're saying then is because First Coast Technical lost its charter, the contract for 20 years that we had with them is null and void, and now we have a one-year rental agreement with St. John's?
We could have entered into the 20-plus years, but we do have an option of working with a local entity.
I am going to ask you to stop speaking now before you get us in a lawsuit, because what you are saying is absolutely 100% not true, and I've spoken to
Okay,
legal counsel. Please do not say another word, because you are not speaking the truth.
Well,
And
I don't know where
I'm
you
not-
came up with that, but listen,
It is
that's
not the
why.
truth,
well,
and
that's
I don't
why-
want
and
to
I
get
know,
in-
I hear all these things as well, but I know what I know.
But
and
it's
I-
not the right thing. It's not legally.
Well, what is not the truth?
Yeah, what is not the truth?
The thing you keep talking about, St. John's, this is a St. John's County school. There's no charter. St. John's River State College has no involvement. It is a St. John's County school. I spoke with their attorney.
You spoke
and-
with their superintendent as well, didn't you?
Of course, because that's a part of their job. This is our job. I want to know what's the truth, and this is not the truth. And I'm not going to sit here and let you say it in a
What's not
public
the
meeting.
truth?
That's not the
Yeah,
truth.
what isn't the
The
truth?
fact that there is some
We'll let
kind
Mr.
of
Douglas
just-
answer that.
Yeah, he can. I looked at the contract we approved. It is nothing to do with the art. All it is the yearly articulation, dual enrollment, the same as we have with the St.
That's two
John's.
different things we're talking
State
about.
Exactly.
5A would have bound us to.
We're talking about two different
That last
things.
contract would have bound us to 20 years. Charlie?
That has nothing to do with the dual
Exactly.
enrollment articulation.
Exactly, and do not combine the
But he-
two
Did I
contracts.
say dual enrollment?
You keep alluding to this 1-year agreement when it's a 20-year lease agreement. That is not changed.
Well, I didn't say it's changed. The
Why
one-year
do you keep
agreement,
alluding to that and bringing it up? This is
because when
a,
it changes in a year or comes back to be renewed, we will not be bound.
it's a separate
20 years.
agreement. No.
You're
it's-
okay.
there's
Nikki
two
is talking
separate
about the
agreements.
1-year articulation agreement,
Hello?
dual
Yeah,
enrollment with
that's true.
St. John's. You are talking about
A
the
future.
20. Let me finish.
Okay,
You
Ms.
are
Crawford.
talking about the 20-year lease agreement.
That's correct.
They're two totally different
Yes,
things.
a future with a separate entity perhaps. We don't know that. And Ms.
That
Crawford,
should never be discussed.
well, that's
It
why I
is
said.
completely out of order to
You can always
discuss a
discuss
20-year.
in a board meeting what comes up, and we were just told.
That's right.
Well,
We were
it's,
just told what, but I'm glad you offered to get legal counsel for me, but I'll stick with Mr. Douglas since he was attending the meetings that I've attended.
But I think we're confusing.
I'm
At
not.
least
two
I'm
separate-
getting confused,
there's two separate
and it doesn't take
agreements.
much,
All right,
but
this has nothing to do,
one doesn't have anything to do with the
the
other.
reason that we pulled and went into a 1-year, we pulled that agreement. The last time we met, or at the last meeting when we discussed the articulation agreement for dual enrollment, we did it for a 1-year period instead of going ahead and rolling it where the 22-year
No, we
period.
did
We
not.
only voted on the one-year articulation
Miss
agreement.
Muir, would you like to please come up and confirm that?
I
Because
don't-
you're
I
the
don't
one that
need-
did it.
I-
It was the articulation for
There
dual
was
enrollment.
there was a portion of the contract that
No.
had to do with, never mind, okay.
It's just
you're-
incorrect. It's
Charlie?
100% incorrect.
Mr. Douglas,
The 20-year lease agreement stated that the 20-year lease agreement would itself be terminated if First Coast lost its charter. Because the charter was because First Coast no longer has a charter, that 20-year lease agreement is null and void. And we are operating on a month-to-month lease agreement with it right now.
Month to month.
Do I still need?
Articulation agreement is for a year.
So that's still a separate agreement with articulation agreement, and now you're saying that our lease agreement is a completely separate thing. To move the two together is what, I can't stand the fact that we are,
Well, I don't think he's doing that intentionally, Nikki. I think that's,
But
I
it's
mean, that's
just-
kind of how it was brought up
Keep our
at the
options
last
open.
board meeting.
it's not our option though. I mean, are you gonna ask St. Johns County to relocate and lose all that money? You cannot do it. It's still their school. It is their school.
what money?
The money the state gave us from Governor Scott. It was for First Coast Technical
For
College.
vocational opportunities and the partnership that we have. And we have legislative representation that will support whatever this board desires to achieve.
So you're saying that we're
go
gonna
with.
go with another vocational school?
I think there's an option here to maybe get even better opportunities for our children here in Putnam County.
Well, that's nothing to do with First Coast Tech. It's very confusing when you say, oh, we're gonna change it, and that's what I get very
No, he didn't
uncomfortable
say we
with.
weren't going to change. We were
Well,
going to change
in
it.
a
He just
year.
said that. Yeah, but you know something else.
Well, I
You're
know
saying
you-
In
that
a
you're.
year, St. John's might not want to have anything to do with
I
us.
know that you've talked with Bev Slough, and I know you've talked with Joe.
I
It's
want to
all
know
good.
it is their school, just like we have Palaca High School. First Coast Tech is St. Johns County School, so we have a
It's ours
joint.
too.
Our school.
Well, it's they
Well,
run
let's-
it on our campus.
Well, let's see if maybe.
What are they running now?
Well, they were paying $15,000 a month at the prior facility. They're getting this one for $1 a year, but we're not going to
We
bind
signed
them.
that as because we got this 1 point whatever million dollars. We wanted to offer it to our students.
Well,
So we
And-
can't go back and change this
we're
with the
we're
state.
working for a year.
Okay, so you're saying that you're working with state representatives to change this agreement where we already got the money.
I
This
think
was an
I'm
agreement.
not arbitrarily doing anything other than trying to see if we have options of support that could maybe. What if we could keep St. John's? Let's hypothetically say they took it over. Let's hypothetically, and they built their enrollment, and they were able to keep their college open here in Palatka and not have to move it where there's not as much growth.
But-
What if
the
we could do it
money-
ourselves
Let
at
them finish,
$4,500 a
That's
student?
fine, but go get separate money. This
What if
money's
we
been
could-
established.
what-
First Coast Technical College, no matter if Mickey Mouse runs it, it's First Coast Tech because the governor
Prior-
gave that money
Prior
to
to the
this.
charter dissolving and being relinquished, we would have to enter, it's null and void.
So you're saying that now that we've got all this facility, we're gonna tell First Coast Tech, oh, we don't need your
We didn't
services.
say, nobody said that.
But I'm saying it's been established in the governor's budget, and now there's all this discussion of change, and it's not good for the community, it's not good for the students, and that's what I keep
Why, they're
saying.
signing them up and they're making money, St. Johns County's making money this year. Why would they want us? Now, really, why would they want to keep us?
Why do we want the vocational school
Why
at our
would they,
school?
why would they want to stick with us? Let's just hypothetically go with that. Because our poverty rates help bring in more money.
We want our students to have an opportunity to do vocational college in our
Well,
our
let's-
county.
Let's
Yeah,
hope
we
that
do.
we do, yeah.
That's what I'm
do,
saying,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, that goal has not changed one bit, but there
Okay.
will be options
So
in a year.
why would you put in jeopardy the money we got from the governor
Because
that
the governor
says,
said it doesn't put it in jeopardy, it's all good.
and you've spoken to Governor Scott about that?
I've had representatives that have spoken.
Okay,
to
great.
Governor
Well,
Scott.
let's see it in writing, because until I see something that says it's not putting it in jeopardy, once you enter an agreement with the governor's money, you can't just arbitrarily change it. I don't like that. That's not when you sign up for money, you get it for the purpose. You can't change midstream, and that's not okay.
Well, I didn't tell the people with the school to have their charter rescinded for mismanagement.
Well, the charter's it's still intact. It's running. There's students in it.
I don't know that we're going.
Well, I mean, it's the
There
school.
is no First Coast Technical College anymore because the charter was rescinded.
We're just working
still
on
First
a
Coast
handshake right
Technical.
now, which is nice.
Okay, we'll just get it in writing. I just arbitrarily, we'll just change it in midstream. It makes me uncomfortable because we could lose a lot of funding due to this discussion.
Well, I'm sorry it makes you uncomfortable. I like options and I like opportunities and I like to be in a posture where we can barter and perhaps do things that could benefit us down the road, even if we stay with them. So with that, is there any other discussion?
About that one?
I guess. I don't even remember what it was.
No,
Kathy.
It was
I will
under the change order.
I will make a
I'm still looking
motion
for
that
legal
we,
counsel.
I'll make a motion that we approve item F2.
I have a motion to approve F2.
I'll second
I have a
it.
second. Any discussion?
We've done that.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on. Wow, that was interesting. I like it. It made my heart beat fast. I feel passionate about
Move
this.
on to what?
I-5. Still with Miss Jorgensen.
As much as Interlochen High School is one of my favorite schools, and I'd love to help them, I'm afraid, I don't understand why our general funds are going to a sports trainer. This is coming out of 0100, the little tiny bit of loose money that we have, and aren't we gonna have to do this for all the schools now?
We already have.
We already have.
They've been doing it for 10, 15 years.
We're
doesn't
just
mean
renewing this
anything.
Doesn't mean you
contract.
have to, that's right.
Unfortunately, I want to say it was some kind of requirement.
No, I'm not aware that it's a requirement, but it's something that we started many years ago, and only Palatka High had it, and it was board approved at the time. And then recently, last year's budget, somebody on the board suggested that if we were doing it for one school, we needed to do it for all three.
Yes.
And so we put aside $20,000 for all three schools. None of the schools other than Palatka High utilized it last year, but now this year, because they said they couldn't find anybody. But this year, I think, is it Interlochen High or Crescent City found somebody?
Interlochen.
So the money is, but there is $60,000 budgeted out of the general fund for athletic, to be there at all the ball games and.
Then why do we have to approve it? I don't understand. We don't approve everything every time we spend, if it's in the
That's not,
budget.
I was gonna say, that's not for me, so I'm not sure what it is that you're approving. I didn't look at that, I'm sorry.
Well, I do know, yeah. I'm kind of like Kathy. It
Maybe
seems
because
like-
they haven't used it before, Kathy, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Y'all know
probably
more
a good
about it than I
point she
do.
makes. I think it's just, we've done it every year.
It's not a contract, it's
We
just,
actually just had the matter come up about Palatka High School, but you make a good point.
If it's in the budget.
If it's budgeted, they probably don't have to get it.
Oh, is it? Exactly.
Automatic.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve I-5.
We have a
Erring on
motion
the
to
side of
approve
caution.
I-5.
yeah, and I'll second
I
that.
have a second from Ms. Crawford. Any discussion? All in favor say aye,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Moving on to O1, Ms.
Is
Jorgensen.
there anybody here that could explain this a little bit? This is IT, it's a contract, and I read it, and I have no idea how much it costs.
is that an emergency session?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, it's an emergency item.
It's emergency, Kathy.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, well, then I can't pull O1.
Yeah.
Somebody should stop me when I
Can we go
read.
back to mine?
Yeah,
All
now
right,
we can go
we're
back.
fixing to.
Sorry, we'll do it
All right,
under
we're going,
emergency.
Charlie, can we just say, since it's an emergency item, we're going to scrap O1?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Ms. Crawford, E3.
Moving on to something way more exciting, fixed asset deletions. Is there anyone here who can answer a question about that? Oh, okay.
What was your question?
Well,
These are,
you probably can. I just look at this page after page after page after page. You know, it says junked and junked and junked and junked.
when
Where
it's,
are these things
when it's
going?
not usable anymore, and this is the process the state has us go through, we have to do that and bring it to you and get it approved, and then we auction. We auction everything, and we
Oh,
do this
okay.
yearly.
So we're not, I was just, thought y'all were like throwing it out in the Dempsey dumpster out back.
No,
or
no, no,
something.
no,
It said
no.
jumped. What, it said
No.
jumped?
If you want some good kitchen utensils for your,
No, but I want these computers to go to somebody that could fix them and,
Well, if you could see how old they are,
but some of this stuff was like
Do we auction them,
$20,000.
and we put everything up for auction.
there's a word called cannibalized on some of the
Yeah,
unfixable stuff.
and I didn't like that particularly.
Well, that's the word the
All right,
state
as long as
uses.
We're auctioning them. People
Yes.
buy that stuff?
I think they buy it by the pallet.
Yes.
loads.
Yes.
They
Big
actually
pallets.
buy old school buses if we don't donate them somewhere,
Okay.
but for very little.
Okay, I make a motion to approve, E3.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second by Ms. Jorgensen, the motion by Ms. Crawford, second by Ms. Jorgensen to approve E3. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Scott,
Ms.
Your emergency session.
Crawford,
maybe you can make this exciting.
F1.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Then I'll-
I know this is asking for a lot, to ask for a brief overview of this 5-year plan.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't recall ever seeing one of these before.
We do one every year.
Every
Okay,
year.
well, I don't
by the
remember
state.
seeing, was it in this same format
Yes,
last year?
exact
Okay.
same format.
Well, anyway, I
What
forgot.
the-
Like
Again,
I
this
did
is
that
what the
last
state
meeting.
requires.
This is based on your calculations of what our needs are gonna be for the next 5 years, correct?
Well, I mean, it's based on a lot of different things.
Yeah, but-
Mostly it's based on our current financial status. All
Okay.
the numbers that you see for the most part up front, I get from Miss Odom in finance.
Okay,
I plug them in. A lot of that stuff is formula driven.
like who needs a roof and who needs,
Well,
A
that stuff
parking
is
lot.
based on, a lot of that stuff has
Age.
been, some of the stuff that we've had, age,
It's
needs.
formula driven.
John and I have a lot of conversation about, where do we need to focus the money? Pico is driven by that. We try to
Okay.
spend most of it on, air conditioning and roofing, which are, truly our greatest needs.
I see that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Crawford, I too, when I first saw those, I was questioning them. And
Yeah.
Well,
That's a lot of work involved in this.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that, and honestly, there's a lot of stuff that's.
like,
I'm sorry.
isn't this just state required?
Well, it's a requirement of the state, DOE, yes,
yeah,
ma'am. I
that's
mean, it's
kinda
gotta be
what I
submitted by
thought.
October 1st,
Okay.
and so we do this every September.
Is it based on, I saw a lot about capacity and,
Those are numbers that some of that stuff I get from Fish. Some of that stuff is already provided by DOE, for us, but we're actually projecting out to 2017, or trying to the best that we can. That's what DOE is trying to figure out. Where do we think we're gonna be, even though they give us the numbers and they give me a formula to figure it.
and that doesn't mean they're gonna give us any more money.
I
No.
wish it did.
The state even sends a team in to walk around with Mr. Gatchell and look at each of our schools and then offer us suggestions, like we don't know what we need, but they do that. And that enters into his plan too. And like he said, a lot of this is formulated where he gets like this fill in the blank form and he's
Right,
got to
this
fill it
stuff.
in.
It's
And
actually done on DOE's website.
Yeah, okay, so
but we can always do amendments to it.
what does COFTE stand for?
That would be our COFD. That's how many-
Coffee?
COFD. That's how many students we have enrolled. Okay.
all
Sorry.
about
Our
some
COFD is the number of
stands
students we
for
have
what?
enrolled.
Capital.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
okay, because that term was new to me. All right, well, I just, wanted
There's
you
a
to-
lot in there. I wish we had
Yeah,
money.
there's
There's
a
always a
lot in
need.
there. It took me forever to read it and try to figure out what it was saying. And, I see a lot of this is projected for, maybe most of it projected for the 2021 school year.
Well, and a lot of that stuff, I've drugged forward or moved back, whichever way you want to go, just because a lot of that stuff, it's on there, it's unfunded.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I
Okay,
think there's
well,
about $30 million worth of projects that are shown on there if they gave us the money that we could go do.
nice.
I did a presentation, it's probably been 3 years ago, where I went through over the last, it'd be 13 years now, at the time it was 10 years, how we have gone through and spent about $50 million on facilities and classroom renovations and additions and projects like that to kind of show, where we're at in the district. A lot of the stuff that's on there is if we had the money, yes, that'd be great to do. Is it a real need? Not necessarily. Again, our real needs are roofing and air conditioning.
Well, it's kind of like your house.
Yeah.
If you had the money, there's a lot of improvements you
ma'am.
could make
Yes,
on
ma'am.
your house.
ma'am.
It's just the difference is you don't have to report to the state what improvements you need to make. And the state gives us our money based on the number of students, and it's never enough to do all the repairs we need to do. So Scott and John Chastain get together and they look at the budgets that they're given from the state and figure out what is the greatest need. But then they also have to do this 5-year plan that the state makes them do, and the state sets it out, and you don't really get to say quite what you want. You have to fill in the blank according to what the state wants. So, and then you have to juggle that and do whatever the state wants you to do. And then as you need to amend the plan, they allow you to send in amendments.
Okay, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume relocatables are what we used to
Portables.
call portables.
Yes, ma'am.
And I see that in the 2016, 17 school year, how many we have, is this how many students we have being housed in these relocatables?
There's a part of that form where it is just the portables themselves.
So in
There's also a
Mellon
form-
Elementary, we have 153 kids going to classes in portables.
That's what, according to our current calculations, that's correct.
We have about 100 portables out, right? I know we did.
Total, we have, yes, ma'am. All over the district, we have about
choice.
108
being used
portables,
as
I believe. Yes,
classrooms.
ma'am.
You may have vacant classrooms at one school, but with school choice, you can't.
Yep.
Yeah, you got all kinds of options there. You have to,
Yes, ma'am. They're in the back.
and I don't need legal counsel to tell you that either.
Stop it. Stop it. Okay, thank you, Scott. I make a motion that,
You are so funny.
F1, that we approve F1.
All right,
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Crawford to approve F1.
Second.
And a
I already
second from Ms.
Kathy
Jorgensen, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I just had to do that. Okay,
you did.
I know. My sisters are gonna get on to me later, my wife. All right, let's move on, Kathy. Where are we?
The emergency.
Emergency items. Let me find them here. All right, we're going to go into emergency session. I declare us in emergency session. We have 2 items. We have, number 1 is learning management system contract. Justification explanation is time sensitive.
That was the one I wanted to know if there was anybody here to kind of explain how much it's going to cost. I mean, we're going to save $18,000 next year if we sign by September 30th, but that's for next. How much is this costing and what is it really?
Okay, so a learning management system is, if you think of, the best way for me to explain it is if you've ever taken an online class through a college, they have to use a learning management system. Blackboard was like one of the ones that was very popular. So this is our contract with Canvas with the digital classroom plan, which that's how it will be purchased, is through the digital classroom plan, which is set aside money from the state for technology. And so we will be using Canvas, and as part of that, we're also going to more one-to-one, so that students, when they're in a classroom, every student has access to a computer. We do have some of our schools who, the high schools, a couple of the high schools where the students take their Chromebooks home with them. So as we get more of our grade levels where they're one-to-one, so one student, one computer, so they're not having to share, having a learning management system is just going to be a way that we can house all of our curriculum in one spot, so that a student has one place that they're going to and they're able to access their lessons, they can do assessments there, and it's not going to be anything that we are requiring all teachers to do. It's just another tool that we can offer, and it's just part of that digital classroom plan.
Is this K through 12?
I believe.
Yes, it is.
I can't, we went back and forth on whether or not we were going K-12 or 6-12. Yes, K-12.
And how much is it?
Over like 5 years, it's 300,000. I think it's like 60,000 per year for the license for all of our students to have access to that.
And,
And it will provide PD for the teachers as well.
right. That sounds reasonable.
So, but you said it's not gonna be required.
It's not going to be anything that a teacher, I mean, that we're saying that a teacher has to use this.
So what if anybody use it?
We already have some teachers that are doing trials with it. We have teachers that are chomping at the bit to get it. A lot of teachers are already using Google Classroom, and this is going to be like a Cadillac of Google Classroom. So it has ways that they can put assessments in it, and it has the capability of having FSA-type assessment questions. So the more we get our students acclimated to that, then the more comfortable they are when they're taking state tests as well.
It's just one more step in our going totally digital, which we're required to do by the state. They had originally, a couple of years ago, given us 5 years to do that. Every school district will have to have a learning management system in order to do it. The dollars are not coming out of the general fund. It comes out of the digital classroom plan, which is a whole separate entity that the state has set up for every school district. So, yeah, it's just more and more technology. And for those of us that are older, it's harder to grasp.
Well, I'd like to know where we're at with computers.
We have 8,000 Chromebooks available to about 11,000 students, yes, in our schools. We are getting closer and closer to having one-on-one to every child. They don't all take them home yet because we can't do that for every child yet. So we have them in the classrooms for them to use while they're in the classroom. A few of our schools are one-to-one and taking them home. And like every other school district in the state, we're finding a lot of issues with that. The children will take that little laptop and close their pencil in it and break the screen, and or they throw it down and because it's in their book bag. And there's lots of issues that we have to overcome, and we're getting there, but it's new to everybody because across the state, this is the direction that the state has said they want us to go. So we're working on all of those issues, but again, this learning management system, so you have to manage all of this somehow. And you all do realize that every student now in high school is required to take a virtual class online to graduate.
I
don't know if everybody realizes
would like
that.
to ask a question about this?
You all know me, but one of the hats I wear is I'm the president of the American College of Applied Science.
Yeah, please
Robert
state your
DeFranco,
name.
Crescent City, Florida. We use a platform called Moodle, M-O-O-D-L-E. It is an open source learning management software, very similar to Canvas and Blackboard. We've been using it for 12 years. It's used by tens of thousands of schools globally, and it would cost about 1/10 of what this Canvas program would
Okay,
cost.
now, because Alice McInnes, who is our director of our MIS IT department, is at a conference currently this week, and she's not here to discuss this, and she has good reasons. She runs that department. She knows what she's doing. She is highly qualified, and I can't answer for her because IT is not my area.
I just want to mention
So,
Moodle, and it might
I'm
be
sure
mentioned
she's
because
very aware of
it works
that.
for universities, and it's a lot less.
Well, there is a purpose and a reason, and normally the state makes suggestions to us, so I'm sure that's why she's using this, and there is a reason. And I'm sure if you would like a response to that, she can be at the next board meeting to respond.
Just trying to save the
Thanks, Robert.
money. That's
Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Anytime
And
you
Helen, did you have anything you'd like to?
One of the reasons that we will be using, if you approve Canvas, is that NEFAC is using Canvas, and that will give us
Integration.
Well, with the other 14 districts in NEFAC, normally when they purchase something, and they have a huge IT department that helps us manage everything, so we do try to do things together, so.
Okay, I need a motion.
If I can add just one thing.
Yes, you can, Mr. Douglas.
Request.
That'd be great.
The jurisdictional clause in this contract says the state of Delaware. So I would ask that in the motion if you would allow me the opportunity to communicate with their council to ask for a change of venue to Florida. And if we can get that done before the deadline of September the 30th, if we can't, you remember this issue came up with
Yes.
First Advantage?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was difficult,
Yeah, and
to
they
say the
wouldn't
least.
change it.
And so if I can get this done before the 30th, then that would be great. But if not, then the board may just choose to go forward with it because, for example, the Chromebooks, their terms and conditions paragraph, their jurisdiction has something other than Florida, I'm sure, and the telephones that so you see what I'm saying? If we can get it changed to Florida, that would be great.
So
But
you want us to just postpone this and?
No,
No,
it's
sir,
gotta
because
be
the-
approved
Yeah, I
by the
think we need to
30th.
go ahead and.
I'd like to make, I'm ready to make a motion that we approve item O1 with the understanding that Mr. Douglas is going to do his very best to get the venue changed from Delaware to Florida. If he can't, we're still approving this because of the September 30th deadline. That's the motion.
Thank you so much.
Second?
We have a second from Ms. Cummings. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. All right. Number 2, establishment of the best and brightest eligibility criteria, justification, explanation, time sensitive. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, I read what was sent to us in our email. Y'all got it at the last board meeting, I think. And then I did some, research on my own, looking to see what other districts were doing. And I think that one of the problems is some of the certified teachers who have taken other positions, such as guidance counselors, librarians, reading coaches, math coaches, and so on, and staffing specialists, classroom, they're getting jilted. They're not allowed, the way it was written before, if I understand correctly, when the state did it last year, now they're pushing it off on us, is you had to be in a classroom to receive this money. I don't think it's right.
Well, that's the way the state intended it originally.
I understand
which
that.
makes sense to me because as hard as reading coaches and other people work, here's my concern. What happens in that classroom all day, every day, is what makes the difference, truly. That teacher
Phyllis, I've
in that
been a teacher,
classroom.
and I've been in some of these other positions, and they're just as
Well, they're
important
all
to-
necessary and all
Absolutely.
important, but tell me, I don't know.
How do you
Y'all
establish
decide.
criteria?
I'm gonna stay out of it. It's your decision.
that's what I want to
With
know.
a guidance counselor or a reading coach, how do you measure that?
The same
That's
way
the
they do
problem.
for every other kind of pot of money.
It's not intended to be fair. There's nothing about it.
It is
fair.
absolutely
Well,
not fair.
as I said before, they've created a very
Right.
divisive, the paper said decisive, it's divisive,
Yeah.
it's very
Well,
divisive.
and that's why they pushed it off on us.
And it's not appropriate and it's not fair. There is not a job in the entire school district that doesn't affect students in some manner. There's not a job in the school district that is anything but important. They're all important. Everybody deserves more money. When you decide you're going to give people more money, it creates a situation.
Okay, so how is it that a substitute teacher can be qualified for this money?
I don't
and a
agree with
guidance
that.
counselor can't?
I don't agree with that.
Well,
And
there's no-
that's my
That is-
opinion, but that's what they did.
But there's no
Absolutely.
scientific data that says, oh, I
crazy.
scored high on the SAT or
Yeah.
ACT, I'm a great teacher. There's no correlation there. That's why to me the money
Well,
is.
I'm told
give
I
it
didn't
to
we have-
everybody.
So
we
I
have-
wouldn't have qualified.
Give it to everybody.
I always found that my better teachers were like average and not the top scoring people that had the high.
Yeah.
I'm
Lord, I
sorry
barely
about
made
that,
it
but
out
they
of
can
it.
at least deal with the kids and have top scoring students. But anyway.
So
Well,
we've got to
the
decide.
students, if the students are scoring well, or if they're scoring poorly on the test, who does that mostly rest with?
It can rest with a lot of people. I mean, I understand what you're saying about the classroom teacher, but the counselor who may be getting tutors for that person, or the reading coach who may be doing individual work with that student to increase their scores, how are they not involved? Mark?
Nobody said they were not involved.
I know nobody, I
but-
didn't say somebody
But
said
I was
that.
a guidance counselor as well, Ms. Crawford, and I'm one that would say those classroom teachers deserve
So
it.
you're
But Mr.
recommending-
Mobile,
you're
no, I'm
recommending-
not recommending, I'm just throwing out my opinion because they said this is a school board decision. But Mr. Model, as president of the union, and you represent everybody,
All right, listen, I got
What
called
would
out a
you-
while ago and I was a bad example, so let's tone it.
well, you
down.
didn't
Mark,
gavel
what do you hear
yourself.
among
I know, I
the-
should have, Kathy
Among
Jorgensen
not
usually
just
hits
the
me.
faculty, but the everyone, what do you
Well,
hear?
What I can tell you is that the lawsuits have been filed against the State Department of Education because of through the EEOC for discrimination, not only because of particular groups of employees left out, but also because of potentially age discrimination because scores weren't available.
Yeah,
Lots of different reasons, but the FEA has basically taken the position. I mean, I think we can all agree that this program's a bunch of crap. You know, that's the bottom line.
It
and,
is.
I'll make a motion.
It's a bunch of crap. But you know, I think that nobody who's truly in education thinks this program is any good. It's the brainchild of one of our legislators that wrote the stories that he read a part of a book and got an idea and didn't read the rest of the book where it said this would be a bad idea, kind of. Yeah. And so this is what came out of it. If you want to know what they should do with this money, if they're going to do this, it should be scholarships for people who make test scores like this that want to go into education. That's where I think we should do something. Anyway, that's not what it is, though. Right? They didn't ask me, but the legislature has put you guys in a position now where they gave this authority to the DOE last year, and the DOE said, and then it, based on the definitions in the statute, the DOE, as I mentioned last board meeting, they've now passed the buck essentially and said we don't want to be the brunt of the fallout from people that are upset about this, so we're going to let you guys make the decision. And I can't tell you what the right way to go is. I can tell you that the classroom, some of the people, as Phyllis said,
Well,
some of the classroom
they
teachers
wait
would
the
say,
lesson plans.
"We're in
That's a lot of
the classroom,"
work. They grade the papers.
and then the
What
folks out
reading
class will say,
coach or
"But
what
we
guidance
should be-"
counselor's grading papers at night or on weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just,
But
Yeah,
they're
it's,
doing a whole lot of other things at night and on weekends.
well, yes, ma'am, and I was there, part of that. But how? I'm just okay. I'm just
You
expressing my
asked us, and
opinion.
I'm-
Yeah. I don't believe that I have a good consensus answer from the employees of Putnam County School District. And frankly, I haven't really asked because we're not in favor of the program continuing.
Right.
I can say that things have come out, asking people's opinion on things, and I've tried to avoid giving any opinion on it personally, just because, it is a divisive, it is a,
Designed to divide the employees among themselves and to cause dissension with local school boards, take the pressure off of them so they can continue to divert
They should have
money
just
to other-
canned this mess.
they should have, absolutely. This should not have been extended for a second
Problem,
year.
I understand
So-
that. but it-
So let's
I-
give the money to everybody. If we do, everybody will get about
All right, Ms.
$5.
Jorgensen.
Well,
That's what
I
they
think,
had to begin
Ms.
I think,
Jorgensen wants to ask a question.
sure.
All right, so the legislature has written a law that says we have to do it this way?
The legislature has said that there are criteria. They still have to have a highly effective rating, and they have to have the test scores. You guys don't decide that part.
Okay.
What you guys are tasked with doing is saying, okay, what defines a teacher? Is it just the folks in the classroom, or can we include all instructional employees?
How would you do the test scores? How would you,
We've
that?
we've negotiated ways that we have a student performance score for every instructional employee, right? We've done that over the last. It's a nightmare to try to figure out how to do it because it's apples and oranges. It truly is, and that's where there are particular groups of employees that kind of have a little advantage on evaluations because there's a slightly different instrument and different. So it's apples and oranges. It's hard. This is a hard decision,
well, can we just say we want to give it as scholarships to?
I don't think they're gonna let us do that,
Well, they're not even
unfortunately.
gonna
What,
know.
how do we classify with the instructional money that teachers get, the $260 for,
Teacher lead money.
yes.
Those are classroom only.
That is,
classroom
I
teachers
thought
only, right?
media
No, they're not. I
Was-
got one every
Okay,
year as a
okay.
guidance
See,
counselor.
All right.
so
See, I'm
why
not
don't
sure.
we just
That's-
keep
yeah.
it in line with the
Rhonda can
teacher
tell us
lead
that,
money? I mean, keep
Yeah.
it the same as teacher lead money.
Yeah, that's right. That's not just classroom. It's, I don't even, I don't.
'Cause I
That's spelled out in
good
statute as well, but
students.
yeah, Rhonda can pull up the statute real quick.
I was just gonna say, to
It
keep
would
it
cover a
simple,
more broad. group
teacher
of-
lead money, keep it in line with that.
So you could look at it this way. You could say that the more people that in Putnam that are eligible for this, the more money comes into our district and, into our economy. That's one way to look at it. And I don't know. It's, the money is spent as far as as far as the, it's been budgeted and it's going to go somewhere, so.
Might as well come here.
And even though I disagree with the program, employees of Putnam County that were eligible, I encourage them, you might as well apply for it. The money's gonna go to somebody. Might as well come to some folks here.
Right,
You know,
and
so,
it
but-
does state in that statute 1012.71 that it does say classroom, hang on, let me find it.
Yeah, but
It
then.
says
but-
guidance,
We're gonna
media
need the workshop.
specialist, certified, job share.
Well,
That's what it was.
every
Now they're
every
making
job
us
title
decide.
that is considered instructional is a
Right.
direction you could go, and then that would include guidance counselors, reading coaches, math coaches, all of it.
Why is it time sensitive? I mean, really, is it?
Because the state's wanting an answer.
But if we haven't decided how we're going to distribute it, it doesn't matter. We're just going to have to do it, and then we'll have to decide at a later date. Is that correct?
'Cause I kinda thought
There's
that's what
a
we're supposed to do now.
there's a timeline.
No, there's a
for when those have to
timeline
be
that
submitted to
we've
the
been
states.
given.
So you've got
That's
a
why it came to
recommendation.
you at this time, yeah. It came through our staff services department, and they have to
And I'm not
respond to
sure
the
about that, but I
state.
don't- that
It's
I
in
don't know
there.
about, Yeah.
Just says full-time
Wouldn't-
job share, classroom instruction, including media specialist counselors who have a certified teaching certificate. That's Florida Lead.
Is anyone
That's
here
lead
from?
money.
I'll tell you what we sent out on the lead. I've got a copy of it here, and it's by statute, and I've got a couple other things I'd like to share with you that I had time to do this afternoon between fires. Teacher lead, pursuant to DOE guidelines, only full-time certified K-12 classroom teachers, ESE pre-K teachers, media, and guidance that are employed prior to September 1st are eligible. So that might, I don't know if that wording is a little bit different. Do not distribute the form to any other staff, dean, speech hearing pathologists, teachers, TOSAs, math or reading coaches, pre-K associates, tutors, substitutes, interns, temporary personnel, paraprofessionals, or employees hired after September 1st. So that's your teacher lead. And I think that's by statute. Now, today I sent out a brief email to some of my finance cohorts to see whether any of their boards had met yet. And one thing that we discussed that they might mean by the substitute teachers being eligible was the contract subs. That's your long-term, you hire them for like a year, a full-time sub in a classroom, they might be eligible.
But they're
Only got-
often not certified.
To be a contract sub, yes, you're
Okay, they have to be a contract. Okay.
Yes, they're paid a lot more than a regular sub. Their
Oh, that's
daily rate of
true.
pay is close to
That's true.
a teacher rate of pay. Only 3 counties sent me back their information.
I had to dig on my own.
And the first was Broward, and they say, can a substitute teacher or temporary hourly teacher apply? No. They said only classroom teachers, staff members assigned the professional activity or instructing students in courses in classroom situations. They said later on that they did not allow it for guidance counselors, media, dean. Volusia County said guidance counselors, resource teachers, media specialists, social workers, school psychologists, teachers on assignment, academic coaches, peer assistants, and review are not eligible. Classroom teachers or staff members assigned the professional activities of instructing students in courses in classroom situations.
Is that since the board has been
Yes,
mandated to?
that's what I asked for.
Vote on it.
Yes. And then St. Lucie, this is, let me verify that it is for the November 2016. Yes. According to Florida law, teachers who are not eligible include those teachers that provide student personnel services, library, media specialists, and other instructional staff. Student personnel services, they said, include school counselors, social workers, career specialists, and school psychologists. And the library media is, of course, your media specialist. So that's the only three that answered me before I came to the meeting. I don't know that if the other school boards haven't met and made a decision yet. So I think we're going to get a lot of variety across the state.
Is there any more discussion?
Orange County said the same thing, Rhonda.
Any more discussion?
I would just recommend, I feel like we should just leave it with the Florida Lead recommendation and make it easy, because we have to pick something.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to keep the guidelines the same as the Florida Lead money.
And I second
We
that.
have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. All right. We're out of emergency session. Into old business. There's no old business, so we'll move on to new business. And looking at new business, number one is discussion, input, and action on Arts Council of Greater Palaca's request for $13,500 to assist in funding arts programs for students during the 2016-2017 school year.
Thank you. You always look forward to your smiling face, because you do such
Hey,
great things.
Rosemary.
Always fun to be here, thank you.
Yes, thanks for coming.
This is getting to be kind of an annual reunion, isn't it? So, well, I'm sure you've seen the proposal. We've been partnering for 18 years, as it turns out, for one program that brings artists for workshops, et cetera, into the schools. And we're asking you to partner with us once again. And that part of the program will cost $8,500. Last year, which is whatever ended in May, whatever school year that was.
1516.
This program reached approximately 2,800 students, and it was the equivalent of 18 to 20 days of instruction. So that's less than $3 a student, and it's an exciting program, and I've been to some of them, and I hope you all get a chance to if you haven't before. And it's great to see how involved the kids become with the artists and their instruments or their discipline. So we anticipate that we will have another 18 to 20 equivalent school days of instruction under this program this year, and you have the list of the artists that will be performing. And then the other program is the after-school program for disadvantaged or underserved children. And there we're asking for the $5,000, which together make the $13,500. We've been partnering there for 5 years. And we serve 40 children in that program of various ages. And we offer drama, some writing, visual arts, etc. And the children have the opportunity to come 2 days a week and either take classes across the board or select their area of interest and specialize in that. And that would be held at the Larimer. As we know, downstairs we have the art studio, we have a black box drama facility, and we are eager to do it again. So please vote yes.
Well, I would like, do we have to discuss it first?
You don't have, you can make a motion in a second, and then I'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve the Arts Council of Greater Palaca's request for $13,500.
Second.
Have a motion and a second a motion from Ms. Crawford, a second from Ms. Cummings. Any discussion?
I have a question. Is this just held at the Larimer Arts Center, or do you come into the schools? The second one, no, is. Second one, the first one. The after-school program is held at the Larimer. Okay, but the other one is in. It is in the school facilities themselves.
you. For the entire county?
Absolutely. We try to spread it around. Good.
Thank you,
so
Rosemary.
much.
Thank you so much.
All right, we
Before
have
we
a
go
motion and a
vote.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving right along, discussion, input, and action on EDGE for Educational Excellence, Inc. Did you want to come up, Ms. Parsons? Governing Board's corrected action plan addressing the grade of F received by the charter school for 2 non-consecutive years within a 3-year period.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Freeman did speak with Mr. Buckles, and I'm not sure if she spoke with you too, Ms. Criswell, but we do need a little bit more time to get our plans solidified. We have made excellent progress identifying where our students are, where they are advancing, and where they are experiencing deficits, addressing those with our staff, infusing the standards. One of the neatest things, we were talking about the learning management system a while ago, and I believe Canvas does this as well. But in our program, Schoology, that we're utilizing, our teachers are able to include their standards on the items that they're doing on a daily basis in their lesson plans. So as the students are performing in those lessons, they can identify the progress and the mastery of those standards. So there are things that will help us move forward with that, and you as well, as we continue to use the technology to our advantage and to that of the students as well. But we do need a little bit more time, and I appreciate your willingness to be able to do that. And while statute does allow us up to 90 days with that, we're very excited about the progress. We have solidified all the pieces on our part for the financial corrective action plan. We have a good budget, and we're good and strong financially right now. And making a lot of progress with the new students that we have as well. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Freeman told me on the phone that there would be a meeting of the quorum of the EDGE board. Do you know what day that meeting will take place?
I believe it was set for the 29th.
Okay.
The 29th. And that was one of the reasons that we would not be prepared today, because they haven't had their September meeting for my board to approve the plan before it comes to you.
All right, when will our board meeting be after the 29th, our next one?
October 4th.
October 4th. So Charlie, would that be
Is that enough time, October
appropriate
4th?
to-
I hope so. We've also been in touch with Wayne Green, who works very closely with you, with your corrective action schools. And we believe that the resources that we're working with right now will help us not just have a plan, but have a good plan.
All right, well, we will reschedule this for October 4th.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
I think we need a motion. I'm going to make a motion that we table item Q2 until the October 4th meeting.
We have a motion,
Second.
second from Ms. Cummings. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Discussion, input, and action on listing a sale of the Campbell Building property with a real estate company.
So moved.
All right, do we need it? All right, we have a motion by Ms. Jorgensen. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second from Ms. Crawford. Any discussion?
I think it is our obligation as a board to get as much money as we can for the building. I'm sorry, I understand the community interest, I really do. However, as a board, our responsibility is K through 12 education. So I think we just need to list it and get as much as we can for it
Well,
to
and
put
my
back
thought
in the
too
pot.
is,
It's empty.
people have not been jumping off the cliff to come buy it.
Right.
Maybe June and her group or other groups that are interested can, vigorously work on trying to find some avenue.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, we're paying maintenance, we're paying
right.
Yeah,
electric, we're
because
paying,
we're
I mean,
still
costing us
paying
money.
monthly for this building to remain.
That should have been
Yeah.
sold a
Yeah.
year ago to the charter school when they
You know,
offered
but-
us $300,000.
do we have some type of format we would like to select a real estate agent, or we do a bidding process, or would the board need to decide that? That
I
would
think
be-
everything's multiple listing, but I don't know that. Charlie, I mean,
Yeah, I think the board should discuss how it would like to choose a real estate agent and who the ultimate agent would be. Not
So
necessarily
could
that it has
we-
to be decided today, but the process that you want to adopt.
could
Well, I would
we-
like for it to be a Putnam County real estate agency. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Could we
Keep
solicit
it
bids
local.
to be turned in as a?
Yes, as a percentage, what they're
RFP.
going to get. In other words, some of
Somebody
them will
might
take
do it for nothing.
7%, 2%, you don't know. So I would really suggest an RFP.
So
I think
we
that's
would
a
do an
good idea.
RFP through Sandy Scranton, and we would ask real estate agents to apply, and then we would look at the,
And we pick.
well, I hate to put all
What
this
their
on
fee's gonna be.
Mr. Douglas, but if we put the RFP out and then, you know, are we gonna just take a list of local realtors? I was under the impression if you go with one group, anybody in a listing can sell.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
it's
group
a
that
real
lists
estate
it gets-
agency.
The real estate, the company that lists it gets half of the percentage, that's I can't think.
If that's part of their,
Right, but that's why it matters which company
Yeah.
we list it with, because no matter who sells it, the company we list it with gets half of the commission.
But they
So I
have
think
to.
that Nikki's idea is really good, because they can say it's 7% commission, 2% commission,
Zero.
a 0.5% commission, whatever, and we go with the lowest commission. Again, it's about the bottom line dollar, as far as I'm concerned, that this board has to worry about in this case.
So Kathy, would we want some type of resume that they would list that they've been a real estate agent for 5 years? Or do we want, if we ask Sandy to write an RFP, it needs to be, you need to be a real estate and commercial for at least 5 years, or, you know, some type of requirements, correct? I mean, wouldn't you think
Well,
that
aren't they
would?
listed and certified, and, I mean, don't they have to have licenses and all that just to be in business, I would think?
But
I
if
don't
we're
think
gonna
it could
write
be
an
like Joe
RFP,
Smith.
if we ask her to write an RFP and she's never written one for a real estate agent, she wouldn't include.
I'm sure she can check with other directors of purchasing in other counties when
I
they've
would
had
say
to sell
Putnam County real
property.
estate.
So
I
could
would limit
we
it.
ask her to prepare one and then approve it at the next board meeting?
and
Yeah.
Charlie, could you
That sounds good.
get with her and make sure she's including everything?
And we want Putnam County real,
I do.
I do too.
I do.
Well, that's 3.
Yeah, I guess,
majority.
I mean, I guess that would be, I mean, I just didn't know with RFPs if that's allowed. I always thought we were out of, to some kind of discrimination thing. If we
Well,
say the
take a look at
RFP
the,
has to, I mean, we can
the
give them
local preference.
favoritism.
Yeah.
Charlie's gonna take a look at local preference.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, local
If that would
preference.
be allowed
that would
to
be allowed.
limit it only to
Good.
Putnam County, or if we can.
And then we can just,
Well, local real estate agents are more familiar with,
And they're gonna have access to nationwide.
they all
Yeah.
do, they all do.
So I
We
make
can
a
put it on Zillow.
June, did you wanna say something?
Craigslist
June, did you wanna speak?
Facebook.
swap shop.
Yeah, you can speak from there if you, well, come on up.
What I wanted to ask was, I don't know if there's any way to make suggestions or to gear the sale towards places that would put something in the building that would be an asset to our community, and that would, instead of being something that might be, well, I guess that would be not an asset, you know, put in something that would be something the whole community could benefit from, rather than, you know, maybe some 27 or so people, you know, I mean.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that zoning's job is to make sure that it's, whatever it's zoned for is what can go in there. That would be the board, the zoning board, that would deal with that, not us.
But I think there may be some influence possibly that, that y'all could decide.
We mentioned
Maybe.
that with the last group that was here, and some of the people that spoke don't even live here, although they own the houses in the neighborhood. They live in other counties, and they wanted to, and we told them we could write it in the contract on what it could be, and they weren't even happy with that, because they kept referring to a place called the Arlington House from years back.
that
and
wasn't even
That wasn't even a part of it.
part
but
of it or
just-
talked about.
But anyway, be that as it may, we're going to get through this process, and it will be very open to the public, because, you know, I read all the stuff like what's going on the, in Putnam County, or what's not going on, and how many conspiracies we got.
Have you been reading Putnam Corruption?
I've been reading what you've been doing, Jane. Anyway,
Well, it wasn't very exciting.
anyway, I keep up with what people are, they're all worried and think we're gonna do something like put up, I don't know, some kind
I'm
of
not gonna do
crazy
anything to
thing.
sell the building.
But it would be very
Jail
nice if we
annex.
could restore
You said jail annex?
Jail
Juvenile detention.
No, that's not funny. It sounds funny, but it's
Why
not.
did you laugh?
I laugh because you guys, it's been a long meeting and I'm still looking for legal counsel. Anyway, June, thank you so much. We won't do anything in a vacuum.
Okay, he spent plenty on
Okay,
attorney's
thank
fees
you.
and staff ethics. All right, I make a motion to,
We have a motion
second. Oh,
and a second.
It's
All
been
in-
so long ago, we forgot.
Kathy wants to.
I think the second has to rescind first, Jane.
What am I rescinding?
The second to, when David read it, I said so moved. And you said second. So in order for Nikki to make her motion, we have to,
Okay, I rescind my second.
and I rescind the motion.
Okay, I need a motion.
I make a motion that we prepare an RFP and approve it on October 4th meeting.
If Mr. Douglas can
If Mr.
Can-
Douglas.
And Ms. Scranton.
And Ms. Scranton can.
come to terms on what constitutes a local realtor and can it be done that way? So, I guess,
Real.
Yeah, well, we'll put this on the agenda again,
realtor.
just like this, I
Didn't I say
think,
realtor?
for next time, discussion, input, and action
Louise
on
did.
listing it. And then if nothing else, Mr. Douglas can give us a report as to where the RFP is at.
Any more discussion since I had my English lesson?
I don't know
Just
then
trying
if
to
my
help you out.
would be the right motion. Are we just gonna table it?
Well, the item is to list it with a real estate agent. You can qualify that motion and change it. You can make the motion anything you want.
Oh,
You gotta remove the motion again.
No, I mean, I
Add
wrote
to the
down what
motion.
you said.
anybody
Okay.
second it?
Yeah, then.
We need a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second from Ms. Jorgensen. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Now,
Getting there, David.
moving on. I'm not mad. I'm happy as I can be.
No, I said we're getting there.
Oh, getting there. I thought you said mad. I'm
Clean
still
yours out.
looking for a lawyer. Let's see, discussion, input, and action on transportation pickup and drop-off at Putnam County preschool and daycare business. Come on down.
Hey, he's spent lots of money. I know, that's all right, I can handle it.
Mr. Chairman, I think you asked Mr. Douglas and Mr. Simons to put something together, so,
Did they? Did we?
well,
Good, okay. Go ahead and make your presentations.
Well, Robert DeFranco, again, this time representing the nonprofit Stepping Stones Learning and Behavior International Daycare Center in Crescent City, Florida. Ms. Douglas, I had called you. I don't think you caught my call the other morning, but I think the board had decided that they were going to. The question is whether or not we're going to have transportation equally distributed amongst the daycare centers by the school district, or if we are all going to be required to have private vehicles, as the rest of the county has, given that 2-mile limit rule. Our position at this point is we're fine with the 2-mile limit, and we're fine. We have purchased a van. We just want equality because we can't compete, you know. We talked about, I think the word grandfathered came up in the last meeting, and this business has only been, the business has only been in business maybe for 5 years or so it's not like it's been many, many, many years. It's very difficult to compete in this business because the profit margins are very slim. I mean, teachers are, you know, preschool teachers are very much underpaid, you know, and we do as best we can to keep it open. We have a top curriculum. We're moving towards accreditation. I invited Mr. Buckles to come down, and you should too, Nikki, because it's your area, and just look at the program. We're involved with some programs with Episcopal Children's Services right now to increase, you know, what we're doing. We're preparing the children, you know, for your schools. So we're just asking for equality. That's all we're asking for. And it seems like Crescent City just seems to have had a couple of centers that have been operating, you know, with this free service. And, you know, there are going to be other centers opening in the future. So let's all be equal, and that's all we're asking for.
Thank you, Robert. Board, any questions for Mr. DeFranco? Does the board have any questions of Mr. Douglas or Mr. Simons?
Well, what's the status?
Yeah, what are we doing now?
Well,
well, I think you need to remember how we got here. Our job is to provide transportation, and if you look at state law, correct me if I'm wrong, State law says it is the parents' responsibility to get their children to school. I mean, that just is bottom line. We didn't do that, the state did that. It's always been state law. Providing transportation and transportation on our buses is a privilege, not a right. So certainly we expect them to get on the bus and behave. And we try to use a system that allows us to look at where students can conveniently get on the bus. I think everybody would like us to do door-to-door service. That's not possible. It'll never be possible. And we even transport within that 2-mile radius, which the state says we don't have to, and they don't pay us for. So we have a lot of issues. And then the state does have a lot of guidelines that they give to the school transportation departments across the state that they are supposed to follow. And in some cases, we bend those rules a little bit to err on the side of the child. Years ago, long before Mr. Simons was running transportation, long before I became superintendent, a route coordinator in Crescent City decided that it was easy just to drive by and pick these children up. It was never brought to the board. I don't know that it was even told to the transportation director at that time. It's been a lot of years ago, and we've just continued to do it because, again, we tend to err on the side of children. Certainly, I hope when somebody opens a daycare, they don't open it thinking that their responsibility to get children to school will be the school or the district's responsibility, because that's not our responsibility, and nowhere in state law does it say that we have to pick children up at daycares. If we could provide transportation to every child in whatever manner, way, shape, and form that it suited the children, the parent, and apparently now the daycares, then that'd be wonderful. But we don't have enough buses, drivers, or money to do that, and the state doesn't require that we do. So I just think that it doesn't matter what we do here. Once again, as in all of your decisions, you're not going to make everybody happy. It's not possible. What we have to remember is what our mission and our goal is, what is required of us by the state, and what it is we're trying to do. Unfortunately, in Putnam County, we have, I don't know how many of our children, Rodney, on buses every day. We have 80-90% of our students in Putnam County that ride buses. And I would venture to say in St. Johns County, you see a lot more parents taking their children to school and picking them up. And knowing that we have that many children to pick up and get to school and get home safely, and how do you do it with the money that we earn, which is not enough and never going to be enough. So again, it is a fiscal responsibility of the board to determine the best way to do this. And Rodney has some information that he can give you if you so desire, and you can certainly ask questions of him and anything that our board attorney has looked at to help you make this decision, because certainly that, we want to make the best decision. But here's what I'll tell you, just recently having been at like James A. Long and Mellon, and when I've been there in the mornings and in the afternoons, there are a lot of daycare vans that pull up to drop children off and then to pick them up. So where do you stop? Do you know how many daycares we have in Putnam County? And if we do it for one, are we not going to do it for all? Or, I don't know what the right answer is here. Because again, I'm looking at the children. I'm not looking at supporting the daycares. That's not our job. I'm sorry, but it's not. If you opened a daycare and you didn't want to transport children, and you opened it with the assumption that the board would transport the students from your daycare, then I'm thinking that's not a good thing. But we have a lot of daycares that have vans that transport these children that come to them in the mornings and the afternoon. So the board has to decide what is it you want to do. And if you do it for one, are you going to do it for all? Are you going to grandfather in the ones we've been doing? Are you going to say we're not doing it for anybody? Bottom line is we got ourselves in a mess thanks to a a lady that was a route coordinator years ago and a transportation director years ago, and neither of them are currently with us.
She was a
So
sweet
there you
lady.
go.
She was a very sweet lady, and I won't call any names here, but, Rodney, does any of the board know, any of the board want to talk and hear Mr. Simons at what it may cost per mile to transport a child? Do you have that calculated, Rodney? Would you come up?
I'm still confused about what we're being
Well, I
asked to
guess,
do.
I feel like the daycare we have some that are getting transportation because there's room on the bus, is that correct? And if so, how many times do we stop at daycares? Because we do it, I just don't know how many times. and
Right,
where.
who, and so what you're saying is if you don't get it, you don't want anybody else to get it? Is that what you mean is fair?
Equality.
You know, Ms. Criswell, you mentioned that, you know, when we opened, we didn't make any assumptions. We just looked at what the other daycare centers were getting, and they were getting
So
the children
they were
picked up and
getting-
dropped off, right?
Right.
And
saw what
again, if the information that I've received from these board discussions is correct, it's the only area in Putnam County that's getting this service. So you mentioned that in Palatka, everybody's running vans and everywhere else you want. Again, I don't want it to come from like that we're not making money or something. I mean, we're losing money in this center right now. We're trying to keep it open. But we're just looking for parity. We're just looking for equalness, you know. It's sort of not fair that and by the way, the one large center, which is right on 17, the same as we are, I mean, they've all been open for 5 or 6 years. It was formerly a video place, you know, if you remember. So it's not like it's been 10 or 20 years. We're just asking for equal treatment, and we're prepared to run our own vans. We're doing it now. You know, we just like everybody to have the same treatment. That's all we're asking.
Understand.
Go ahead, Kat.
I'd like to split a hair. What's the difference between daycare and pre-K?
It's kind of synonymous. We have VPK that we run, which is an optional program, the voluntary pre-kindergarten, and there's lots of rules and curriculum and such that we do with that. And then pre-K is just you know, we have 3-month-olds as much as
Daycare is
yeah,
just-
daycare as much
yeah.
as 5 years. In the second 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, we start curriculum. We're teaching them behavior and ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, and you know, we use the Nemours curriculum and. So, but it's all, and then we have our school-age kids that come and go, and there's about 20 of them that we have.
Focus on pre-K, and we agree that it's so important, but I don't understand.
So would we pick up?
But we're
just the
not
pre-K
transporting
kids
your
or-
pre-K students, they stay with you, correct?
Correct. It's just,
So
we're
it's
just
not
talking about the
pre-K,
school-age
it's the
children.
daycare. It's the
parents
daycare
work and they drop them
students
off
that
in
we're
the morning,
transporting.
and then, you know, we serve them breakfast.
Oh,
with
you
the-
mean that hang out there until school starts?
Right, they hang out, right?
Ah.
And then they come back, and then they have a snack, and they spend time with us, and then they
Is
don't
the
just
other-
hang out, we do things.
What's the name of the
So-
other place? Is it Sugar Bear's Den?
There's the Future Little Learners, and there's a place called Grandma's, and maybe you know more than I do, but those are the two that I'm thinking of, yeah.
Maybe I'm in the
308B or
wrong place,
something.
okay.
Brenda Masters had Sugar Bears.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Simons, board members, he would be the one to ask all the questions that you've asked me.
There's a total of about 5 within the district that are less than 2 miles that on different occasions.
5 daycares?
Yes.
Okay.
That you could classify as daycares. Mr. Buckles alluded to Sugar Bear's Den. We have a bus that goes in that area from Browning Pierce, but if you look at the area where that daycare is located from the school, those kids that live in that area are being transported by bus. So because we stop in that area, you know, that's not necessarily we're transported to a daycare or whatever.
Right.
But we have 5. We have the 2 in Crescent City, 1 in Interlaken, and I'm not 100% sure the distance from the elementary school, but I know it's close. Stay and Play down at the bottom of the hill on 17, about past Browning Pierce and Satsuma. Those are the only ones. And then I think we have a Academy of Rising Stars. We have a couple from students
thought they
from
had
James
their
A.
own
Long that go
van.
there.
And can I ask?
They do. For the most part, they transport their own.
I guess I'm just trying to figure how far your daycare is from the elementary school.
It would probably be about 3.5 miles round trip. If
I
we
think
went
it's
from
about
the
1.9
school,
miles, maybe?
if we went from the school, well, yeah, if we went from the school to the daycare and then back to the school, and if you did it morning and afternoon, you're looking, you know, between 3.5 to 4 miles.
Do we know the
Each time.
capacity of that bus, what it's currently running? how
If
many
we,
students?
if we were to do that, we do not have any buses that are coming through that area, available for students to board. So it would have to be a bus, like I said, after they drop off at the school, we would have to go back and pick up those students and come. So if you look at the mileage, per day, the drivers pay per day for just that one specific route over the course of the year, it does add up.
And what's the closest bus
You have a
stop to
number?
that location?
The closest bus stop.
If there was room on the bus, is that what you're saying?
But, well,
We
there's,
we
if we're,
probably would have to look at stopping
I
on
just wonder-
17. There's no other roads around. And I think you mentioned before about the loop to pull in. There's really not enough room to turn that bus in there and get in there and then get
We've
out.
had buses come through there and turn it. I'm just saying, it's a very large circular driveway. It's a building owned by Joe Pickens and Bill Pickens.
If you go fast enough, you can ricochet off Napa and.
Yeah, you can hit the curb and go up, but it's not, and, previously, the bus actually went into one of the daycares, but because of the traffic in the daycare, and a bus pulling in with vehicles, backing up and trying to get out, we're picking up those students on the road, and is that the safest location? We're stopping traffic, so yeah, it would be a safe location. Do the students have to walk out to the edge of the road? Yes, but I can't put a 65 passenger bus in there with vehicles that are parked in spaces and safely go in there and worry about hitting a car or hitting a kid that's running around. It's not our responsibility to go and do that. And in my research, the state says we get paid for transporting students 2 miles or more. And then under that, it's the district's decision as to what we do. So when you look at that, whatever decision the school board makes, I will schedule and do whatever, but the cost is to the district, it's not to anybody else.
But can you come up with a figure, a per mile number
Well,
between
if you look
maintenance and
at,
gas
if you
and
look at
salary?
the, roughly 3.5 to 4 miles a day, and then you go the 180 days, and we get 7 miles to the gallon, and if you look at the total amount of gallons, per year, and then the driver's salary, I did a couple of different figures, but I was looking at, the whole district in reference to our 2 mile window, but just this one in particular, so I think it was a couple of $1,000s.
And my feeling on this is that I know we can set a policy and I know what state law is, but we are a self-judiciating body. And I feel like, for me, these situations come up and need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. If you have students that are being transported into an area where, like he talked about, where it was gonna be on the way anyway and dropped them off. And I'm more concerned with getting the kids to and from wherever they are at school to where they're gonna go in the south end of Crescent Cities. Can be pretty rough as you get on down toward Clifton Road. Below the South Handyway, it changes a little, but, I don't know that there's if you develop a policy that says we're not gonna grandfather people in, we're gonna go ahead and shut it off, then you've painted yourself into a decision that you're still, as a self-judiciating body, we can still override our policy, and then somebody's gonna claim it's not fair. You understand? Somebody is not going to be happy. So, that's for the board members to think about, so.
Well, I agree with the gentleman that it should be equity, but I don't think we should do it for anybody, because we're gonna have 16 more daycares up here asking for it.
Well, if you got-
And we don't have any money for the classroom.
You're right, but you can't put the kids in a bubble and expect them, you wanna get them to school, and you wanna know they're safe and they can be taught when they get to school. And anything you can do to help. I looked at us give money to the Arts Council earlier. That's 13 kids that could have gone to pre-K. That's, everything we do is tied back to what occurs with children. And I know it's very serious. There are situations, if Palatka only has one middle school now, if 40 of those students go to the Academy of Rising Stars or wherever it is, you know, if you can go that way and you're going that way,
You're already on the way.
you're already
you
on
have
the way,
room in
help
the
them.
bus.
But if you can't and you're going out of the way and you're spending thousands of dollars, but it is, you know, then who picks? And
Yeah, it's
and
just-
you've
Well,
got-
rather than choosing, wouldn't it be easier to just say any daycare or Academy of Rising Stars that wants to use our services should have to pay us? So that then we don't incur, if you want to use us, you pay us whatever Mr. Simons determines is appropriate for the number of students they're picking up and taking back.
Well, we have a contract.
And
with
then
Charles.
everybody gets a fair shake. You want to pay us to do it for you, then maybe we
He has
can.
the drivers and the buses available. That's my only concern in the Palaca area. That could be such a large number. Would you have the equipment to, I mean, I don't know. I guess it'd be first come, first serve kind of.
See, Robert's the only one that's really asked in the last couple of years. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
these
know.
other people haven't
But
had a reason
but if
to.
nobody else has.
Yeah.
But if they get rid of their vans, look at what they save. The cost of the van, the wear and tear, the gasoline, the insurance. We're saving the daycares quite a bit of money. And that's not our job.
Well, I'm not in the daycare business.
Right.
I mean, I
But
love
if
to-
they want to use our services because it is an easy thing, because we're going right by, then they can pay us. Then they don't have to have a van. And if at some point Mr. Simons finds that even those that are out of the way want our services, then he would charge them an out of the way cost in order to do that. My thing is, I want to get all the kids to school.
if you don't, and
But
here's what happens
it's still
there.
wear and tear on his bus and his driver's time and all of that. So I don't know what the easy answer is to me. Okay, everybody can have it, everybody pays.
It'd be nice if there was an assessment, but I hate to see us
Get in
mess
that
up
business.
in one situation where we've been involved and one child try to walk to a facility and get caught by somebody and God forbid murdered or something happened. We're going to be looking at past practice and what occurred, and Charlie could certainly steer us in the right direction if the board wants to. I mean, I see Deborah Shepherd laughing at me over there,
Better get legal
Mr.
counsel
Buckles,
on
if I
that
could just,
one.
but let Charlie, Robert, real quick. I mean, you got any recommendations? for us?
Help 'em, Charlie.
Hey, I'm just
You
one
have
vote, huh?
discretion on how you want to operate within the radius. I know Rodney was still researching the cost per mile. If you want to charge, you would be within your purview to do so. If you wanted to provide service, as you have in the past to others, you could do so. If you wanted to stop service, you could do so. This is really a decision that you have a great deal of flexibility with. And I'm not sure I'm the best one to choose.
Make a recommendation.
Yeah, with that. But legally, I believe that you would be in the right with all of the above.
Well, you guys, I'll call. Robert, do you want to say one more thing?
I just wanted to
before we-
mention that you mentioned about a child getting hurt. That shouldn't happen because when they're in the facility, it's a DCF licensed facility. We have lots of rules. There are lots of rules on how we run the vans. We have to have a fire extinguisher, first aid kit, a monitor on the bus, which I don't think your buses even have. It has to be a second person. So that if the child is being transported by the daycare center to and from your public schools, it's in a safe vehicle, and it's our responsibility and our insurance. They're not going to be walking on the street.
I'm talking about denying and going ahead and stopping and kids trying to walk to get someplace. But all right, having heard that information, board, you want to make a decision here? Let's see, this is for action.
I would like to make a motion that we deal with this the way we dealt with the charter schools. We do have a per head, never mind the motion, I'm just talking now and then I'll put it in. But we do have a per head, don't we? That's how we came up with the way to charge the charter schools. It's like per student, and we divided it out. And we get half the funding for the charter schools, so we make them pay the other half. We get no funding for the daycare centers, 0 transportation dollars. So I would like to make a motion that we develop a contract with daycare centers similar to what we have with the charter schools.
All right, I have a motion, and I need a second before we can have discussion.
Second.
All right, we have a second from Ms. Cummings. Any discussion?
I guess I just feel like we're gonna have to change the bus routes, because if we're currently having these stops because it's a neighborhood and there's a daycare there, are we gonna have to say, oh, we are not allowed to stop at this daycare anymore, we're moving your stop 2 blocks away? That's my only concern, because the 5, like for instance, I know Stay and Play, kids walk to that neighborhood behind the daycare, and it's just an easy place for them to stop, especially with Highway 17 traffic. It's very scary there, and
Oh, it's horrible.
I don't want to think about that bus not stopping and Stay and Play for the
I would,
safety of the kids.
now, no, because I would say if the daycare is close to a regular bus stop
Right.
and those kids walk down to that bus stop, that's not a problem. We don't have to charge the daycare for that because we have a bus stop. We just happen to have a bus stop in that area. But if we have to actually stop at a daycare to get children.
That's a whole
Like a
different
charter
ballgame.
school.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just
All
don't
right, I
want
have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Chair votes nay. It carries
Nikki?
3-1.
You voted aye.
A no vote is an affirmative vote in Robert's Rule of Order.
Can I just ask one more question? Is there any time frame for this? Do we know?
Non-vote is
We can direct our,
That'll be up
ask
to our
our
attorney.
attorney to work on something based on the contract we have with the charter schools, and maybe get with Rhonda for a
when somebody
per head amounts that is subject to change each year. Sound good? All right.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okey-doke. Moving right along. Discussion, input, and consensus to advertise amendment to policies number 2431 and number 8600.
Advertise.
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 Advertise. Okay. All right, reports by board members. We'll start with Ms. Jorgensen.
Statewide assessment calendar was on the consent agenda, and I could not believe the number of exams we have to give these students. I could not believe it. If you haven't looked at it, most of you probably have. It's insanity. It's really unbelievable. I've never seen it all listed like that. I don't know how we do it. I don't know how we do it and how we're supposed to do it. That's just a comment. It's unbelievable and it's ridiculous. And call your legislatures and tell them to butt out of education. It's supposed to be local. They don't know what they're doing. That's on the record. I noticed in the budget amendments that we have a backpack program in with our money. Is that legal?
Yes, it's donations, we've got it set aside for a specific purpose, and it's only spent for the way that.
So that the public would be able to hear that on the tape.
I'm sorry.
Shay, she shakes her finger and talks to me the same
We're going
way.
to get her a microphone over
Yes, the
there.
school district is allowed to receive donations, and if it's for a specific purpose, we put it in a special project, and all monies received for that have been put in a
Terrific.
project within the general fund and
Thank
spent
you.
that way.
That was my question. And, I had asked for a list of cards and a list of cell phones and things like that.
yeah.
And I got the list of cards, which is fine, but do we know who's got them? That was really Mr. Simons left. That was really my thing, because it was a problem a year ago. So, we got this list of cards, but where are
Can you
they?
share that with the rest of us?
Sure, it came in an email. I'll
didn't
just.
get it.
Yeah, Rhonda, could you send it around again, please? Thank
Was
you.
phones on that too?
Phones was on that too, but
Separate
the
email.
phones isn't a big expense. It's not as big as I thought it was. It used
As
to
it
be.
used to be,
3
yeah.
times as much for cell phones.
It's really just maintenance.
It's really just maintenance that has it, and it's not a big dollar item. But it did say cell phone and who's got it, and how many cell phones there are. Rhonda will send it around, and we have a lot of vehicles, and I think every year we budget for a new vehicle. Like, there's usually
was
20,
some of that
30,000 in
$5
for autos, so,
I sent them all on August 4th and sent it to everybody.
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
All right, Miss Nicole Cummings.
As far as the best and brightest, I definitely want to just publicly say I just feel like the program, and I don't know why the state came up with that. And we are charged with finding out who is who makes that cut and not, and it's just something that's put on our plate that we don't want to. I don't think any of the board is really anxious to do that, but it was hard to come up with something fair with something that's completely unfair. So I just want to publicly say that. And also, there was something else. Oh, our workshop about recruiting. I just want to commend Dr. Coleman, because one of the things that we are doing as far as recruiting teachers is getting with the professors, and all of our local professors that teach at St. Leo and St. John's, they're recruiting their students, and I appreciate that because I know that that helps us in our effort. And so it's really a collaboration, and we can go to all the job fairs we want, but if we don't have professors saying, hey, have you thought about Putnam and think about this? So I feel like that was a great opportunity to spread the word about Putnam, and our IT department created a wonderful video, so that's a really nice thing. So thanks for all the hard work in that department. That's all.
Here it goes. Miss Crawford.
What's that supposed to
You
mean?
told me you were gonna you had a real long one.
Well, I don't think it was hard to understand how I feel about the Best and Brightest program. It's just the most divisive thing, just like any of those programs that we've had to share money among teachers. There's got to be a better way, better things to do with that money. Okay. I had the opportunity to go with some staff members from the school board office to EdGov Live conference. Did I say it right? eGov Live, sorry. And it was amazing. I learned so much about board governance and governance through policy, which is, something we're going to have to keep discussing. But the best thing about it is we heard an amazing speaker, Reshma Saujani, who is working to close the gender gap in technology, and she started this very successful nonprofit called Girls Who Code. She gets tons of money for them, and she started this under the premise that tech jobs are among the highest paying and fastest growing jobs in the United States. In the country, and girls are being left behind. And by 2020, there are going to be approximately 1.4 million computing-related jobs in the United States to fill, and United States graduates are only going to fill about 29% of them. And of that, women will only fill 3% of them. So she's working very hard to get girls more involved in coding. And y'all probably know during our last legislative session, there was a bill from the House and a bill from the Senate trying to get it to where high school students could count two consecutive years of coding as their foreign language. And it was only just nothing ever happened with it. But it is... teaching coding is at the forefront of the STEM initiative, and we need to make every effort in Putnam County to get it in all of our schools, and encourage our counselors and everyone else encourage students to take classes in coding. And all over the United States, we learned from this guest speaker, districts are starting coding in elementary school. And it's just doing amazing things with their students. But anyway, I just wanted to let y'all know about that. It was just such a wonderful opportunity. I appreciate the board allowing me to go to that. Homecomings are going on. Palatka High Schools is this week. I heard we had a little stir up, but everything's fine. It wasn't really a stir up. But they're going to be happening at all of our schools, and we just pray that the kids have a wonderful time and they stay safe. Our prayer breakfasts and our terrific kid programs, they're all in full swing now. Our community embraces us in so many ways, and we need to continue these partnerships with these organizations. And I just hear so many great things going on in our classrooms. It's just so exciting to hear about what our new teachers are doing and what our old teachers are doing, and, you know, trying to make it the absolute best atmosphere and learning experience for our students in Putnam County. We're so lucky. That's all, David.
Well, thank you. I'm sure, is the coding in the state curriculum that we have to teach every day?
All of Broward County schools, they're in their high schools, they're teaching coding now.
Wow.
I looked it up today.
Okay. I saw where one of them said they weren't going to teach Common Core, and we don't really teach Common Core. They just flip the standard around.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will pass my time to Mr. Douglas.
Everything is going well in the legal department.
Thank you. Ms. Criswell.
Well, yes, Palatka High School's homecoming is this week. They're having lots of fun. Parade Friday afternoon at 3:30 downtown Palatka. If you'd like to be there or be in the parade, they would love for you to come and do that. Let's see. Take your
I will call you.
child to school day. This is for dads. We've been advertising this. Hopefully you've seen it. This is coming from the Department of Education, and it's all across the state. It's September 28th. So we are promoting that and getting lots of comments, and I think even dads on Facebook encouraging other dads to participate. So that should be really exciting on September 28th. Let's see. Also, just a reminder that our Interlochen High School cheerleaders are continuing to raise money to get their opportunity to perform in New York City. And that's really exciting. So if you would like to donate, you may write your check to Interlochen High School, and on the little notation line put Cheerleaders NYC. And that would be wonderful. They'd really appreciate it. It is very expensive, but it is an opportunity of a lifetime for those young ladies. The last thing that I would like to say is, let's see, in November, we have 2 meetings. Normally you do a reorganization meeting after the Tuesday elections. You have it scheduled, I think, for November 15th, so I respectfully request that you at your next meeting discuss changing that so that it can be after the date that Mr. Charles Overturf, as Supervisor of Elections, sets the swearing-in date for particularly new board member now. So the 15th would be too early. I think the actual swearing-in date is like the 22nd.
So what are the 2 dates of the November meetings?
Right now, they're scheduled for the 1st and the 15th. And normally what you do is the board members, everybody is sworn in, and then you come back normally and have your meeting. They swear them in about 9, and we've been coming back and having our meeting at 10 or 10:30. Yeah. So anyway, we probably need to be prepared to discuss that, changing that like to the 22nd of November. Canceling the 15th and changing it to the 22nd. Just a thought.
Can we put it on the agenda for discussion? And I would like to, I'll get in touch with Charles too, to find out if that date is gonna work, because if it's,
We don't want to change it to something that we
that's
don't.
not gonna work.
Yes, yes, but I do believe he said Tuesday, the 22nd, would be the day that people would be sworn in.
When's the election?
The 8th. The 8th.
Well, why wouldn't the 15th? Why wouldn't he do it on the 15th?
I don't know, but
Because they swear them into office, but not on the 15th, so.
Sandy,
It's
give
just
you
been
our-
tradition. That's up to you guys.
Excuse me, before you leave, Sandy, before you leave, would you give my wife your cell phone number so I can put it in my phone? Thank you.
Oh,
All right, do we have anything else?
Don't.
Do we have anything else? And I will conclude the meeting. Thank you.
You will get all.